Today, this video is all about dog communication. Hello everyone, my name is Chris, and today we're going to talk about dog communication. Now, it's super easy to get off on a tangent when it comes to this, so I'm going to try to keep it very specific and succinct so that way it doesn't ramble on. So, when dogs communicate, they communicate in only two ways, verbal and physical. And the first thing we're going to cover is verbal. So, when dogs are verbal, you have barking, whining, and growling. And that's really it. But depending on what's going on in their mind in that moment is going to determine why they're barking, why they're whining, and why they're growling. And those are the parts that we're going to cover when it comes to the verbal, the positive and the negative aspect. So there's different types of barks. If you end up having a dog that's barking, it's going to be a lot of times it's going to be for one of three reasons. If they're stressed or they're afraid, you're going to hear them bark with a high-pitched strain to it. So it's going to be like a woo, woo, woo. When you hear that bark, you know where your dog's mind is in that moment, and that is they're stressed. They're afraid of the situation that they're in or the thing that they see that could be a possible threat. So if you end up hearing that bark, just know it's not a protection bark, it's a fear bark. Now, if you have a dog that is barking and it's very calm and confident, then you're dealing with a dominance type bark or a protection bark. It's going to be more of a ba, ba. And what they're doing is they're confident in themselves, they're focused, but they're letting whatever it is they see as a threat, that they're the real deal and not to be messed with. Now, you also have barking because of drive. So if any of you have labs, say for example, a retrieving dog. You might have a lab where you're throwing a tennis ball and you're sitting there holding it and you've got a dog in front of you just barking. It's because that drive is building up so much energy that their tail's wagging, they're maybe jumping up and down, but they're also barking because they know that if they do, there's a good chance you're going to throw that ball. So it benefits them to bark. But ultimately what creates that bark is that there's so much energy created in their body through drive, the retrieval drive, and the chase, the prey drive that causes them to chase the ball. They can't contain it, and so it comes out as a bark. Now, there's also whining and howling. If you end up having a dog that's whining, a majority of the time, it's because of stress. When a dog is under stress, again, that builds energy in the body and it has to be released somehow. So a lot of times it'll come out as a whine. And if it's just a soft, easy whine where it doesn't look purposeful, they can't help it. But when that whine happens, you need to understand it's because in their mind, they are feeling uncomfortable in the situation that they're in. And that whine is a result of that stress energy needing to be released. Now, a dog that howls, a lot of times, again, it's because they're unsure or they feel alone. And so it's natural for them to howl because they're trying to look for others in their pack. So if you leave a dog at home, for example, and you go to work and you come back and your neighbors are saying, man, your dog was howling all day long, it's because they were trying to get their pack coming back to them. There are certain breeds where that is more common to hear, for example, hounds and huskies and malamutes, but it's important to understand why a dog is howling. A majority of the time, it's because they don't feel safe on their own, and so they're projecting their voice out there going, hey, here I am, come to me. And that's why you end up having a dog that howls. So if you understand that it's created really because of stress, then it helps you then do what's needed to try to comfort that dog or put them in a place where they feel more secure. And then the third verbal that we mentioned was growling. Growling is a warning. So the example that I use is you have dog A has a bone, dog B wants that bone, so dog A growls. That's a verbal warning, get back. If dog B doesn't heed to that growl, then dog A is going to physically lay into dog B. But it's important to understand what the growl is. The growl, again, is a warning. The question you have to ask yourself is, when your dog does growl, is it justified? If they're growling because they're trying to possess their food from you, that's not acceptable because that's possession aggression. If they're growling at another dog because that dog is getting too close, then they're going to growl, and hopefully that other dog gets it and goes, you know what, I'm just going to leave you alone. Because beyond that growl, the only real other option that dog has is to engage in a physical fight. So it's important to understand that growling is simple dog communication. But if it's done at the wrong time and to the wrong person or to another dog that might be part of your pack, which is in your home, if you as the leader don't want what comes after a growl, you have to learn how to fix why the growl is happening in the first place. Now, the physical aspect of dog communication. A lot of times what you'll see or what you'll find is dogs will use their body a lot. So you have some dogs that are jumping on people or jumping on other dogs or slamming into them or even pressing in. When you have dogs that are jumping and slamming into you or another dog, what they're doing is they're showing a lack of respect for your body space. And what they're doing is they're trying to assert their dominance. They're saying, I have the freedom to do this. And that is a way for them to show where you stand in their life when it comes down to, are you the leader or are you not? So a dog that jumps on people and is really pushy, all they're doing is saying, hey, stop whatever you're doing and give me what I need. Now, if you have a dog that's pressing into you, there's a good chance that it's for safety. If a child, for example, say the first day of kindergarten, and your child doesn't want to leave you, and what they're doing is they're pressing into you, they're maybe holding onto your hand or holding onto your leg, they're doing that for safety. And so if you have a dog that, if in certain moments and you think that they might be stressed and they're pressing into you really hard, or they're trying to get on your feet or trying to touch you somehow, that's really what it is. They're trying to get to where they're safe, because as long as they're pressing into you, they feel that now you've got their back and hopefully you would keep them safe. So if we're in a situation where you don't want a dog pressing into you, again, you have to understand why they're doing it. And if you're the one that's able to say, hey, look, we're not in a situation where you are at or where you are threatened, where your safety isn't threatened, get off of me. You're fine on your own, just be. And that's one way we can start to help build our dog's confidence, is by showing them that they don't have to press into somebody or climb up onto somebody in order to be safe. Now, if you see a dog that is that lowers their head or maybe rolls over on their side or on their back, what that is it's submission. If you see two dogs come together that are meeting for the first time, you might see one lower down, or what they're doing is they're making themselves small and they're trying to let that other dog know that they're not a threat. They're small. They're submitting to the dominance that they sense in that other dog. And so some people think that is that's driven by fear, but in reality, it's simple, everyday dog communication. Dogs can sense when people are dominant, when other dogs are dominant, and if they don't have it in them to try to establish their dominance on those other dogs or people, you're going to see that dog be submissive. And so don't be worried if you see that. It's not happening because it's abused, or it's not happening because the dog is necessarily afraid. It's happening naturally. It's an act a dog can do. It's a way that they can show that they are not a threat to whoever it is they're in contact with. So now let's talk about body posture, and we'll start with the ears. If you end up having a dog that has a set of ears where you can tell that they're nice and relaxed, that means that their mind is relaxed. A lot of times you'll see that most when dogs are getting ready to go to sleep or they're just hanging out with you, maybe on the couch or something. But if you have a dog where their ears are pinned back, they're showing that they're stressed, which could be getting ready to go into fight, but it's mainly caused because of fear. It goes along with the tail. If the tail is tucked, for example, what they're trying to do is they're trying to take away the appendages and become small in their body. But that's only going to happen when a dog senses a threat. And again, whether it's a real threat or not, if the dog thinks it is, to the dog, it's as real as it gets. So if you see a dog's ears pinned, they're showing that they're unsure of the situation or the object that's in front of them, whether it be another dog or a person. But when those ears pin, it's really important that you don't allow whatever they're perceiving as a threat trying to go towards them, trying to prove to them that they're not a threat, because the dog doesn't know the intention of the person. The dog just knows that whatever they're perceiving as a threat is coming towards me. And so that pinning, that warning sign, maybe the lips start curling a little bit. But what they're doing is they're giving a visual warning, better stay back. Now, along with the ears, we talked about them being relaxed, and that's pretty easy to notice. But sometimes if the ears are up and forward, that shows you where they're focusing on. So if a dog is a confident dog and they are they hear something that maybe they want to go towards, or maybe that they're in the house and they see or they hear something that might be outside, that they're unsure of what that sound is, you're going to see them go up and their ears are going to be pointed and trying to figure out what that sound is and where it's coming from. So when you see your dog's ears forward, it isn't about happiness. It's about engagement and trying to find out what it is, but they're also not showing signs of stress. So when their ears are forward, your dog is interested in what it is, but they're not in a fearful state. Now, another way to know if your dog is nervous or not is that hair that sticks up on the ridge of their back. So anytime you see that hair come up, it's strictly nerves. The dog is in a situation, it feels uncomfortable, it's trying to make itself look a little bit bigger, and so that line of hair goes up down its back. That means that your dog, in the moment, whatever's going on, whether there is a real threat or not, your dog is showing that it is nervous and feels unsafe. And so in that moment, if necessary, get your dog out of there, because if they're feeling nervous or feeling threatened, you don't want a situation to arise where your dog chooses fight to try to keep itself safe. Now let's talk about the tail. If you have one dog that meets another dog and that tail goes straight up into the air and curls, if it can curl, but if it goes straight up into the air and it locks solid, that's a dominance position. And so in that case, we then want to immediately look and see what the other dog's tail is doing. If that tail goes straight up and is locked, you are now running the risk of a possible fight, not because of fear, but because of dominance. Now, if your dog's tail goes straight up and then it starts to relax and starts to waggle a little bit, a wagging tail is drive, play drive, hunting drive, retrieval drive, herding drive, whatever it might be. That's energy in the body that has to be released somehow, and that's what causes the tail to wag. So when our dog starts to walk to us and we don't say anything and we don't do anything, they might be nice and relaxed. But the minute we open our voice and we start going, "Hey buddy, how's it going?" And now he starts to get that safety drive in to where he knows when he comes up to us, we're going to start petting him and loving on him. Now you're going to see that drive for safety that goes up, and that energy has to be released. And that's a lot of times when you'll see that tail wag. It's one of the reasons why we look at the wag and we're not worried about it. It doesn't matter really what's going on with the facial expressions or what the ears are doing. When a tail is wagging, we know the dog is more calm in their mind. They're showing that they're not fearful of what's going on, which means that they're also more than likely not a threat. Now, when you have a tail that's relaxed, which means that it just has a natural, nice slope down, then that means the dog's mind is relaxed. They're not in drive. They're not looking to go play. In fact, majority of the time you see it is when a dog is walking nicely and properly on a leash and they're not in hunt mode, they're not in track mode, there's nothing going on them that they're afraid of, and so they're just relaxed. And you see it in the demeanor of their body. Their ears are relaxed, their tail is nice and relaxed. And when we're moving with our dog and it's not playtime, hunt time, tracking time, that's ultimately what we want to see. Because it doesn't matter where you are. If you've got a lot of stuff going on around you and your dog is showing a relaxed behavior, it doesn't get any better than that. Now, a little bit earlier, I talked about a dog's tail being tucked. There's only one reason a dog tucks his tail, and that's because he's scared. He's perceived something in his environment that he feels threatened by. And when that tail tucks, if it tucks just a little bit, you know he's a little nervous or scared. But if it tucks all the way up and under, and it's just solid, and it looks like it's pressing as it's doing that, it lets you know that your dog is very fearful and very insecure of its surrounding. So when you're able to see that, again, you're able to maybe do what it takes to get your dog out of that environment so that way he's not stressed any longer than he needs to be. Now let's talk about stress and what the body shows when a dog is stressed. Anytime a dog is stressed, it builds energy in the body. And that energy is released quite a few different ways, whether it's shaking, sniffing, panting, yawning, whining, chewing on things. It's all ways that the body can release or is forced to release the energy that is created by stress. So if you watch your dog laying down and it's not cold in the room, but they're shaking, it lets you know that in their mind, they feel pressure or stress. And that shaking is a way for them to release that. If you ever to watch somebody give a speech and they're not comfortable giving a speech in front of people and they're holding a piece of paper and it's shaking, it's the same thing. People release stress all different kinds of ways. Shaking, talking too much, chewing on a pen. They're getting that energy out somehow. Well, dogs are no different in that. So if you understand that if a dog is whining, for example, and it's this simple, soft, low whine that's fairly consistent, you know it's stress relieving the body and there's nothing they can do about it. And so it would be unfair for us to try to stop them from doing that. But if that whine goes from a light whine to an open mouth complaint, now it's purposeful and we can tell the dog fairly that that behavior is unacceptable. Now, with all of that said, the importance of understanding dog communication is because we're not dogs. We have to be taught this for us to be able to understand it. So it's important that when we understand why a dog's body is doing what it's doing, that allows us to then be able to start to become the leader that our specific dog needs them to be, which in turn gives them the best life possible and allows us to enjoy them and invite them into many different aspects of our lives. So if you found this informational, and again, you liked it, hit that like and subscribe button. There is going to be more videos coming out about all of this that, like I said, ties together. So if you have any questions, comment below. If you have certain topics that you might want me to cover, please comment below and ask me those questions. It just may turn into a video. Oh, and remember, dogs are meant to be a blessing to our family. So gain control so you can invite them into all aspects of your life. Thanks, and have a great day.